Good evening and welcome to the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries. Welcome to a Friday night live session that we have here with you. My name is Samuel Lewis, and we've got a full panel here of Israelite brothers who are going to be talking about the power of resilience and unity. So, first up, we have Elder Jason.
Peace, peace. It's good to
Peace,
see you
welcome,
again,
Elder
man.
Jason. Good to see you, sir. Also on the panel, we have Elder Kwame.
Peace, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Elder Kwame. Good to see you. And we have Davros Rogers. Peace, Davros.
Peace, peace.
Peace. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time out to sit down and have a conversation here about resilience. One of the things that I want to kind of start off with is a definition of resilience, and something which I think is really powerful for us to kind of get an understanding about the topic. So I got this literally from Google, right? And the first definition that came up was resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. And then it had in bold toughness. The second definition of resilience that was there was the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape, elasticity. So these are the definitions of resilience, and we're going to be talking about some really resilient folks in the Bible. And I have to say, looking throughout the scriptures, as a people, as Israelites, we've gone through a lot of things and we've seen a lot of stuff, but we're still here, thanks to the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Guys, we've got a jam-packed session, so I want to get straight into it. But before I do, I just want to say, please do not forget to hit the like, subscribe button, share, put your comments in, and just have a good time. All right? Throw some fire signs in the chat, throw some sevens. Let's get into it. Guys, over to you. Tell me, whoever wants to talk about their definition of resilience. What does resilience mean to you?
Okay, so I'll go first. So first of all, thank you for making me come on to this panel. I think it's very good. I like being here, to share some wisdom for those who need it outside of this, you know. So yeah, I'm happy to be here, and yeah, I hope today you get some good insight, some good scripture. So for me, resilience, the definition that you gave, I believe it is right, but I also believe you need a purpose to be resilient, to be tough, and for you to bounce back. There's got to be a purpose. If there's no purpose, this is where you won't be resilient, obviously, and you won't get to how you was before because there's no fight. And as we see from history, from the slaves, and especially like with women, you see how they've bounced back and they've got a purpose to live, and they know something is better, so they're holding on to everything that they can. So I think if this is a great topic, and I'm ready to jump in and see what scriptures you've got, and give some wisdom and some knowledge back,
Nice.
to the people. So yeah, I'm excited. Let's go.
Nice. Sweet. And how about you, Davros, or Elder Kwame, I should say. Elder Kwame.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a really, really interesting topic matter. I think the word resilience, when I think of the word resilience, as an Israelite, is something that speaks volumes. It speaks, it's part of us. You need it. I mean, just reading the book and just knowing the stories of, like you said, of all the things that our forefathers went through, right? They had to endure slavery. Like for 400 years, they had to endure that, right? And then they had to give up they had to acknowledge their mistakes and obviously go back to this God that chose them, to serve him, you know. So when I think about the word resilience, I think, and you mentioned something as well. You mentioned two definitions. You went toughness and elasticity, right? They go hand in hand, right? It goes hand in hand because, and a good example of that I'm thinking about is, I remember when I first came into the nation, right? When I first came into the nation, I remember, I don't know if you remember this, Elder Jason, when you were speaking to me, I remember when I first came in, I had a great job. I lived in a really good part of London. I was earning good money, and everything was good. Everything was nice, you know. And I remember coming into the nation. I remember speaking to Elder Jason, and Elder Jason was teaching me about the Bible, the scriptures, telling me about, you know, there's this true and living God that the world doesn't talk about, and he's in the Bible. And I was like, what are you talking about? We all serve the same God, you know? And I remember him introducing me to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And I remember when I started searching and seeking more, and as I was coming into the nation, I found that all of a sudden I lost my job, right? I was made redundant. Someone stole my car. So many things. There was a lot of events of things that happened, right? And I felt, at the time, I felt, what is this? Because in my mindset, I was thinking, well, Elder Jason's introduced me to this new God, this God, the true and living God, right? Why is it that I'm going through all these things? It's the way I can sort of describe it is like I felt everything was taken away from me, everything that I had. And there was a purpose to that, right? Because that's what I thought life was about. Life was about living life, you know, having a good job, earning good money, and, you know, driving a nice car, you know, going to the best clubs. That's what I thought life was about, you know. But then obviously when everything was taken away from me and I didn't have that, I now had to rethink myself and said, well, wait a minute. All the things that I felt was important is been taken away from me, right?
Mm.
So now learning and coming into Israel and learning about this book, I was now being taught about what is more important, the importance of who you are, and who this God is, what his purpose, why he's chosen us to serve him, you know? So it was very difficult. It was tough times. I felt as if I was being pulled to two different directions. You see what I'm saying? And I had to ride that wave, you know. Obviously, it didn't just happen overnight, but it took a couple of years. But eventually, I got a job and I started earning good money. But I felt like, you know, that definition, what you talk about being tough, you know, I had to learn how to be tough. Yes, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So yeah, so it kind of that resonate really personal with me when I think about this topic matter, man.
and you know what? I love the how you explains the being pulled, because it kind of speaks that elasticity kind of bit, right? And
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
you know, are you going to be able to bounce back? Are you going to come back from it? So yeah, I think it's really great, fantastic. How about you, Deb?
Sorry, yeah, peace, peace, Elder Kwame, peace, Elder Jason, peace, Samuel. Resilience. I'll keep mine short. As you said, definition: elasticity, the act of rebounding, coming back to your original state, and toughness. And I think these are quintessential traits that an Israelite needs to have, as well as humility and other things, to be resilient, especially in this world, in a world where we're going against the tide. And it seems like everyone is against us, everyone is against the way we think, our understanding. And we're quick to speak the truth, but everyone thinks that we're speaking lies or we don't know what we're talking about. We need to be resilient. and unified in this nation, especially when we're teaching the doctrine and when we're serving the true and living God, which is the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And we've got many examples of resilience in the Bible and many examples of resilience in our nation, starting from the very top, from our very own Elder Shadrach, all the way down to the Supreme Council, the priesthood. And you guys have also shown me and given me loads of examples of resilience. So yeah, this is going to be a great, interesting topic.
It is, it is, it is. And I like the fact that you talk about Elder Shadrach, and anyone like who knows his story, who's read his books, will know and definitely understand like just how resilient he is. And, you know, the fact that we're here and he's brought back the captivity to some extent of Israel, and that we even know who to call on. You know, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob is a testament to that. And a testament to the fact that, you know, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob even himself said that he would not, you know, forsake us. You know, and that there would
Amen.
always be a remnant. And I think that kind of speaks to even the God of Israel's own resilience with us, you know, allowing, you know, all of that stuff that we've done, you know, the chastisements that we faced, you know, the fact that you're going to misbehave, okay, here's some punishment, here's some slavery for you, you know, but he still strives with us. His spirit still strives with us. And, you know, we're really grateful for that. But I guess just to kind of move it on, what I wanted to kind of ask you guys was, you know, in terms of resilience, who would be the quintessential or the main character for you that kind of speaks to that topic, that speaks to resilience? If you had to pick an example of someone in the Bible who, in your eyes, is an example of resilience, somebody who is, yeah, resilient, who would that be?
For me, I would say I've got plenty. I would say David. I would say he was resilient because no one had faith in him, but he had faith in himself. And this is what I was saying about purpose. If he had never had no purpose, then he wouldn't be pushing or shrugging off his other brothers or other men of valor, saying to him, "Oh no, you're just a little boy. You're just a little boy. You can't do nothing. You can't do nothing." But he shrugged that aside and he said, "You know what? I'm going to do what I'm going to do in the name of my God." So I look at David a lot, and even like if you look at Moses as well, like a lot of people turned their backs on him as soon as he went up to the mountain, like where they started building up a calf, you know, and he had to come back down, and then he had to deal with that and still lead the people, you know, and still do what he has to do, you know, whereas other people would have just crumbled and put the head in the sand. And as you were saying, when you're saying about Elder Shadrach, like, and I'm not sure if we're gonna speak about Elder, but it is important to know that when Elder first started off, that was just that one man. Yeah, he had to go out and spread this word, and he went to his people first. Everyone spat in his face. Everyone called him names. Everyone laughed at him. You know, I said that, "Oh yeah, you're a crazy man. You're a crazy black man. You don't know what you're talking about." You know, there's nobody believed in him. He could have just been like, "Nah, this ain't right. This ain't right." And he could have run back to the Christian church and put the cross around his neck and go and get baptized, you know, backwards inside the bath, inside the church. But no, he was resilient because he had a purpose. Yeah, and no matter what, you know, he was going for that purpose, and yeah, he would change his mind frame, and then obviously Elder Christini come along. Yeah, someone that's not his skin color, and this is where you broaden your mind, you know, so that you could last. You understand what I'm saying? So you could last, and even here today, Elder is how old? He's still strong. You think you could say anything to Elder, and this is what he teaches us in the Israelite nation, right? How to have thick skin, how to be resilient, you know, because we are going out into the world, and as Dad was said, we swim against the tide. Yeah, if we don't have strong, thick backs or thick skin, you know, we're going straight back to the Christian church to be enslaved. So, so here at the Israelite nation, from the highest to the baby, Yeah, we teach them guys. We teach our own how to be strong because the world is against you. The world is against the truth because the world can't receive the truth.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will go on and make this a lesson. But
No, it's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. And that's what we're here to do. Actually, we're here to talk about these things. So, Elder Kwame, how about you?
For me, I think Elder Jason touched on quite a few things, but for me, it has to be Abraham, right? And Abraham went through quite a few things, but the one thing that stands out for me for Abraham has to be when he was told to sacrifice his son, right? Isaac, right? Because for how many years, right? He wasn't able to have his own son, right? His wife was barren, and obviously she couldn't give birth to his own kid. So to have this child, be blessed with this child, and just to be so happy knowing that the God of this true and living God that he believes in has given him a child, and he's so happy, and only to be told, go and sacrifice your child. Can you imagine how he felt? He must have felt, man. Do you see? He must have felt. He must have felt. Wow, wait a minute. 1 minute he's like on cloud 9, and the next minute he's like his energy level must have dropped straight down. He must have thought, what did I do? Do you see what I'm saying? And he had to be tough. How many people do you know that if they were told to go and sacrifice their child, they would be able to? But you had to hold it all in. And what was so incredible about it was that he didn't run away from it. He accepted that challenge, and he took his child to go and sacrifice. You know, so when you talk about these things, there's so many elements that comes into resilience, like faith, right? Obedience, you know, to follow instructions. You know, he had to have faith. He had to have obedience in the God, in this God, the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob, that he, you know, serve and believe in. That this is my God. This is the God that gave me this child, right? Yes, he's given me this child, but he told me to sacrifice his child also. So you know what? Who am I to say no? You see what I'm saying? So yeah, man.
It's powerful. It
really
speaks to a mindset. It speaks to an amazing mindset, a powerful mindset that, you know, surpasses like our everyday understanding. And I think that's something which, when I listen to like the characters and the people you mentioned, even Elder Shadrach, you know, there's a certain mindset that you have to fight, to go against the grain, to have that toughness. You have to be resilient. You have to be creative and flexible in your thinking and in who you are. And I think that's something that kind of comes out in some of those characters that you mentioned, and definitely in Abraham. Fantastic. How about you, Devos?
I mean, that's as Elder Jason said, there's so many. I kind of agree with Elder Kwame. I could go back to the source. I could go to Abraham and say, you know, as a Babylonian who worshipped many gods. I'm not saying Abraham worshipped many gods, but he came from a culture of worshiping idols and many gods. He heard a voice and did things which was contrary to his people at the time. Showed a lot of resilience to take his family and move out of that safe environment into an environment of the unknown. So Abraham, I could say Moses, as what Elder Jason said. I could even the women. Sometimes we forget about the women like Hannah, who prayed for a child. You know, showed resilience, just kept going and going and going. Mary, Elizabeth, who did things, called a child a name with, already knew the name that the child should be called, but these names, i.e. John, was a name not known to our people, but was resilient and was steadfast and was like, no, this child shall be called John. You know, did the thing that she was supposed to do in order for that child to be what that child was to be. So it's across the board. There's so many Israelites that are resilient or show examples of resilience.
And I said that at the beginning, you know, that as a people, we have been throughout time resilient, and we've had to be, right? because of what we've gone through. I'd probably throw in, Queen Esther. You can say that she was really
Yeah,
resilient.
yeah, definitely.
At the time, she was she's married to the king, and if the king didn't, give you the go ahead to say come into that's it. That's off you ahead. She took a big risk, massive risk,
Exactly.
going in there and to defend her people. Going back to that point and speaking to the point that you made, Elder Jason, about the purpose of why you're doing what you're doing, the purpose of resilience, and I want to kind of touch on that, and we probably will get into it. For me, the purpose of resilience and my own kind of definition of resilience, if I had to have one, is the ability to come back from tests, trials, traumas, and be able to learn from those experiences, right? Because for me, the way I look at it is it builds character. That toughness that you develop going through situations, through tests, through trials, it builds your character. It builds you into the person that the God of Israel ultimately wants you to become. And like you said, Elder Kwame, when you came into the nation, you had a great job. You're earning money, you're living, in the best areas of London. And then a change happened, right? A transformation happened, and you had to make that decision whether you're going to stay or whether you're going to go. And it was literally, from what I can tell, probably one of the best things that could have happened. So it's really great to kind of to hear those stories and get that testimony. I'm going to go into one of the stories very briefly that really touches on resilience, and we all know it. And it kind of is a really interesting one. It's about a guy who basically moved from the prison to the palace, and his name is Joseph, and his technicolor coat, as they claim, as they say.
You know, Samuel, I'm kind of like controlling myself here because as you're speaking, my mind's going here, it's going there, it's going everywhere. It's going back to slavery. It's going back to those guys who just came out of slavery and they started creating things like the traffic lights and the hairdryer and this and that. Can you imagine what they must have went through, what they've seen the forefathers went through, like maybe like the father or the grandfather went through, and then they're still in this state of oppression and they're fighting because they want something better and they're fighting for it. Can you imagine the setbacks that they had? Can you imagine? There's so many of them. There's thousands of them. The setbacks that they have, and they're just like strong. That's why sometimes they say the children of slavery, they're like strong people. They're strong people, and because it's who they serve is who the forefather had a contract with, right? That we are going to be their God, and that God is going to be a God unto us. So it's almost built in us. But anyway, as I said, my mind's going everywhere, and I'm like, I need to.
It's building us for a purpose, right? And that's kind of what I want to kind of get to. And that purpose, I'm just going to say it. That purpose is unity, right? Every trial, every tribulation, every test, every trauma that you go through, right? It's for a purpose, and that purpose is to create you into the person, the man, the woman that you see here today. All right, and I believe that the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, He has that purpose, set for you. And whether that is to humble you so that you understand who you are better, so that you can be of service and that you can serve. I think that's something that it comes out throughout the scriptures, and we'll see it definitely in Joseph. So I'm just gonna highlight a couple of things, a couple of scriptures, and we can just talk about it. So Joseph, you can read this in Genesis 37, 12 to 28. Don't have to go there, but you can if you want. But the main thing that sticks out in that portion of scripture is that, and we kind of alluded to it already, is that he was sold into slavery by his own brothers. So there's like two things there, right? There's two things there. There's the trauma of being sold into slavery, and then there's that betrayal that it was your own brothers who did it too, like, how would you be in that situation? Like, be honest. Like, if something like that happened to you, like,
man, I can't even imagine it. I don't know, and I'm hoping that the listeners that are in here. Like, I would like to see your thoughts, because me personally, like, I've got like 4 brothers, and yeah, we're close. And if I know that one of them sold me into slavery, like, I'll be like, but again, it depends on your upbringing and how strong you are, because you can actually get sold into slavery and just end up being weak and just end up withering away. But I think my theme for this lesson will be purpose. It will be purpose, like on the side of resilience. You know, if there's no purpose, then you just wither away. And
yeah,
yeah,
I think that's the key there that Elder Jason touched on. Really, is that you have to have a purpose, man, because that's how you can overcome that. Because like me, just thinking about the story, man, like your own blood, your own brother or your own sister sold you to slavery, got rid of you. You know what I mean? How do you deal with something like that? How do you overcome something like that and move on? Because
Right.
what do you look at it and say, well, I'm gonna get revenge? That's your bro, that's your blood. How
you
do you
can't
do
even get revenge because you're locked up.
you know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying you can go that path and say you're gonna go and get revenge, but that's your brothers. Are you gonna come down to their level to want to go back and get revenge? Or do you look at the bigger picture, right? Why are you here? What is your purpose? Right?
And we'll get into it. We'll definitely get into it. How about you, Dav? What's your thoughts on that? Sold into slavery by your own brothers.
I
I'm not saying
mean,
got no brothers. No joke.
yeah, I don't have any brothers. I've got sisters. But I mean, I don't know what to think of that, because that is like the ultimate betrayal. It's I don't know. I think it's an unthinkable thing to do. I guess they must have been really envious of the love Jacob had for Joseph, for them to want to do that. But it's very difficult to fathom. But these things happen. Israelites, we fight, we do, we hurt each other, we make the wrong decisions. It's I guess it's life. But yeah, that's probably the ultimate betrayal. I do think that is a very
Like,
hard act to forgive,
yeah.
let alone
It's
forget.
I think as well, like the question can be asked, how do you bounce back from somebody so close to you selling you into slavery? How do you bounce back from that? You know, how do you bounce back if your dad sold you into slavery for some money, or your brother sold you into slavery because he was jealous of you, and you know this? How do you bounce back?
And let's bring it to the modern day, right? Like, it doesn't have to be like slavery like that, but people can just sell you out. Friends can betray you, right? People can, your friends, can, trip you up and make you, lose your mind, So all of this stuff like can easily happen. Like somebody can backstab you at work, right? Somebody you thought was an ally, an advocate, or whatever it is, can go in and then say things about you, ruin your reputation. All of those things can happen. Like, how do you take that? How do you bounce back? I guess that's kind of what I want to get into and understand, that mentality, the psychology. Like, who do you have to be? That toughness, that elasticity, bouncing back. What is it? What are the components that we need as Israelites walking through this world, and our viewers as well out there? What is it that we need in order to bounce back, to have that understanding that, okay, this is a setback, but it doesn't mean that that's where I'm going to stay. Like, it's happened and it's come to make me stronger, right? It's going to build my character. In the moment, you may not think like that, but these stories are there to teach us. They're here to guide us and show us, how we can be. Because I'm starting with Joseph. It started with his brothers selling him into slavery, right? But by the time you reach to the 7th and the 8th kind of, point of resilience, you'll kind of understand that, wow, this guy, like, he went through a lot, because that wasn't it, right? He had other things that happened to him, and you can read it. Potiphar's wife, for example, falsely accused him you know, of attempting to seduce her, right? That also happened. And again, he was imprisoned in Egypt as a result, and he endured an extended period of confinement. And you can read that in Genesis 39, 20 to 23. But the part that kind of gets me is that he was forgotten in prison. He was forgotten after interpreting Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker's dreams. He was forgotten even after they said, yeah, we'll come and we'll sort you out. We'll remember you. And he was just forgotten. I mean, at that point, do you think it would have been okay for him to have like a complete and utter like mental breakdown?
Yeah, I think normal people would. I think some people would, because you'd be thinking, oh yeah, man, like they're gonna bring me into the fold, they're gonna treat me a bit different, and they're like, yeah, forget about it, man. Like you're from outside, you know, we're still gonna treat you like that. But we read the story now, and we can look at hindsight. But for him in that present moment, you know, it's just you and your thoughts, and trying to live by day. But he also understood who his father's God was, and his grandfather and his great grandfather's God was. So he would have had some type of zeal, some type of worship, some type of strength from knowing who their God is, which is his God also. So I think he's riding the waves. I think Joseph at that point was just riding the waves, because he doesn't know, he didn't know the future of what was going to happen. But
Yeah,
big things happen after that.
Can I add as well? See examples of Joseph and his resilience. What I like about those kind of examples as well is you can marry the two with the children of Jacobites, and what we were put through, or our fathers were put through, forefathers were put through in regards to slavery. You had to have a specific type of resilience. A certain type of people would only qualify to do those types of jobs in those types of conditions, and to be able to bounce back. We show these traits. We have the resilience, just like Joseph, because, like I said, it's very, as you said, he was forgotten in prison. So he interpreted dreams. He did so many wonderful, miraculous things, but yet he was forgotten at the time when he was at his lowest. He was behind bars. And at that time, some people may even lose faith, may even think God's not listening, God's no longer with me. But Joseph didn't. He stood strong. He continued to serve his God. He continued to worship his God. He never faltered. And obviously, we know the rest of the story. He got blessed. But yeah, resilience goes hand in hand with the children of Israel, with the children of Jacob. Again, essential trait that we all share.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it, Davros. Even Elder Jason mentioned it. I think the key there is, like you said, there has to be a purpose, right? So obviously, he had understanding through his faith. He had understanding that there was a bigger picture, right? He couldn't give up. You know, he believed in this true and living God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, and he couldn't give up. You see what I'm saying? Like you said, normal people, any ordinary person would fold under those circumstances. You know, being sold by your family, that's enough in itself, right?
Yeah.
But then on top of that, being falsely accused, of seducing a man's wife, right? And all because you were sold by your family in the first place. Because you wouldn't be in that situation if he wasn't sold by his brothers. Do you see what I'm saying? But he was able to overcome that wave. Do you see what I'm saying? So, you know, and it really speaks volume of having that true purpose, right?
And sorry to cut you, Elder Kwame.
Yeah.
You know, another thing. Sorry to cut you. Because you made a point that I just remembered. When he was falsely accused, I forgot the master's name. I forgot his name. I forgot the wife's name, and I forgot the master's name. The Egyptians. That Egyptian guy loved Joseph. He didn't even believe that he did the thing that she accused him of.
Mm.
But out of respect, I would say, or submission to his wife, he just went along with it. But
Yeah.
deep down, he didn't want to do that. And it reminds me of Joseph showed how to be an Israelite without just by being himself. So in other words, we don't go around forcing the law, statutes and commandments and put it in people's faces. We don't walk around in strange clothes or have certain symbols hanging out and let the world know who we are. We blend in with the world. We let the world judge us on our deeds and our actions. And that's Joseph. He got judged on his deeds and his actions. He was known to be a good man. He became obviously a mighty man in Egypt, but he was known for his deeds and his actions. He was seen to be a righteous man. You know, so yeah.
It was Potiphar. Potiphar was the name of the guy.
That's the name.
You're right. Like, it's crazy. But like I said, the part for me was, and that's not even it. Like there's obviously more. You know, like, and again, we're talking about resilience. We're talking about the ability to bounce back, having that toughness, that mental, physical, spiritual fortitude, right? Where we can actually say, I've been through this test, I've been through this trial, but actually I'm still here. And you're not just here, but you're thriving as well, right? To be truly resilient, you have to have, like Elder Jason said, a purpose. And I think for me, it's also a journey in discovery and understanding who you are. And ultimately, as Israelites, who we are as children of the Most High God, what it is that we are called to do, what it is that we are required, you know, as you know, it's written in our creed, you know, the services of God. These are the things that we have and we hold dear. So these are the things that we aspire to. And for us, ultimately, it's being at one, not just with ourselves, but also with our brethren, having that unity. And that's what I believe resilience can do for us. When you are resilient and you have gone through tests and trials, it creates and it shapes you. It shapes your character. And hopefully, it makes you a better Israelite, that's able to support and help not just yourself, but also others. Because in that moment, in that time of trials, and in those times where you have to be resilient, you get to learn yourself. And this is what I'm kind of taking away. Like during that period of time where brother Joseph was in slavery and he was sold, and he was falsely accused, and he was imprisoned, and he was forgotten, and he had the pressure of having to interpret the Pharaoh's dreams, and then he had to be reunited with his slavers, his own brothers, who didn't even recognize him, right? Even think about that. How at that point, however many years, decades have passed, and then he had to now deal with facing the people who sold him into slavery. Like that could have been all manner of things, you know. At that point, he was now the prime minister, let's say, and he's there, he's high flying, and then there's a famine in the land, and you know they come and bang, he sees his brothers, the people who sold him into slavery, who literally kicked off this chain of events.
I guess like if we go into scripture, I'm not sure what scripture is going to use, but if we even look at Job, Job had everything taken away from him. Yeah, and I think that this is something that everyone on this who's listening here today should try and realize that, you know, what's been written down in the scriptures is for us to learn from. And for someone like Job, for these things to be taken away from him, if your car got taken away from you, it's not the end of the world. You know, if you've got some bills to pay, or you know, you lost some money, it's not the end of the world. Think of Job. Job had everything taken away from him. Yeah. But as I said, his mind still served the God of Israel. Still serve. You know, and that was his main focus. So nothing could really deviate him from doing that. It didn't even matter what he lost. There's so much examples inside the scriptures that we can learn from to make us stronger. So do not think that if you're going through something small, or even if you're going for something big, that you can't overcome it, because there's some extreme examples inside the scriptures. It's just a matter of finding it, or reaching out to somebody so they can help you with it, and so they can make you understand how strong you really can be. You know, but yeah, I'll leave it back to you, Sam. Like, I'm not sure. I'm gonna leave
it's good. I just wanted to finish on the on Joseph, and obviously, like when his father passed, and we can probably go there. Genesis 50, verse 1 to 14. It kind of talks about, you know, the experience of sorrow, Joseph losing his father, right? So Joseph loved Jacob, and obviously he was sold into slavery. So he missed out on his father, on his father's love, on his father's life, and you know, it shows that he continued to exhibit resilience even when you know, he heard the news that his father had died, and he showed that forgiveness as well. And it takes a really great man to be able to do that, to say, look, to look into the eyes of the people who sold him into slavery, who then made him have to be imprisoned and be falsely accused and then be forgotten, and still turn around and forgive his brothers. Like,
not me.
Who amongst us can do that, right? That's what it is. Like, what is it about their mindset? What is it about their character, that emotional state, that we can learn from? What can we take to say, can I be that person? Can I be like that towards my brothers and towards my sisters and my brethren, right? Because ultimately, what we want to strive for is unity. We want to strive for peace. We want that to be a symbol of who we are, so that we can create the right environment to bring forth good fruit. And that is what Joseph did. He was able to transform all of that trauma, all of that pain through his resilience, and come out as prime minister and create a wealthy place, not just for himself, but also for his brethren, for his brothers and sisters. So there was a purpose, there was a plan. And I'm looking at this through a slightly different lens, because when people talk about, you know, Potiphar, they talk about Joseph, it's kind of like, oh, you know, he's great faith and all of that sort of stuff, steadfastness and belief in the God of Israel. And all of those things are right. But there's also this other side, which we don't often talk about. And it's something which I think post, you know, COVID 2020, where up is down and down is up and left is right and back to front, and all of that stuff is going around in the world. There's so much craziness. You know, it's taking a moment to say, scripturally, like, we have an excellent example in terms of resilience here. So Genesis 50, I don't know if we can bring that up. Okay, wonderful. And who's going to read?
I wanted to international. Is that the new international version of the Bible?
I wanted to make a point before you move on to that, right?
So, yeah.
What came to me quickly when you was talking, Samuel, was the fact that, you know, when we look at this book, right, the stories and the events that took place are example for us to learn from, right? Because when we look at Joseph's situation, or even Job, as Elder Jason was speaking about, it is to an extreme level, right? So none of us are going to go through what Job went through, but it goes to show that if he can overcome something like that, as extreme as that, then it's nothing to what we're going to go through, right?
Amen. Amen.
You can never compare that to what Joseph went through. We could never go through any example, any situation like them. So that tells me as an Israelite that I can forgive my brethren, right? Regardless of whatever situation that we have to deal with, because we live in a different era than they did. We're never going to go through that kind of situation. You understand what I'm saying? So I feel that is a really good example, man. Really, really good example.
I'm just gonna read Genesis 50, 5-0, just from the first verse. I'll be doing a lot of reading, guys, so just bear with me. But it says here, and Joseph fell upon his father's face and wept upon him and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father, and the physicians embalmed Israel. And 40 days were fulfilled for him, for so are fulfilled the days of those which are embalmed, and the Egyptians mourned for him 60 days. And when the days of his mourning were past, Joseph spake unto the house of Pharaoh, saying, If now I have found grace in your eyes, speak, I pray you, in the ears of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, Lo, I die in my grave, which I have digged for me in the land of Canaan. There shalt thou bury me. Now therefore let me go up, I pray thee, and bury my father, and I will come again. And Pharaoh said, Go up and bury thy father, according as he made thee swear. And Joseph went to bury his father, and with him went up the servants of Pharaoh and the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt. And I just want to stop there for a second and just show the respect and the honor that Joseph got as a result of, everything that he had done up until that point is just phenomenal. He's got Pharaoh agreeing to, his demands and the things that he wants as a result of that. And I think that resilience is something again that kind of comes through. It brings favor, and especially if you're following after the God of Israel. I'm just going to continue here, verse 9. Sorry, 8.
You want me to read that? Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can read from verse 8.
Verse 8. Yeah.
Yeah.
And all the house of Joseph and his brethren and his father's house, only their little ones and their flocks and their herds, they left in the land of Goshen. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. And they came to the fresh flow at Atad, which is beyond Jordan, and there they mourned with a great and very sore lamentation. And he made a mourning for his father 7 days. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanite, saw the mourning in the floor of the Atad, they said, This is a grievous mourning to the Egyptians. Wherefore the name of it was called Abel Mizraim, which is beyond Jordan. Carry on.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip down to say 14.
Stop. Okay, 14.
Yeah.
All right. And Joseph returned unto Egypt, he and his brethren, and all that went up with him to bury his father. And after he had buried his father, and when Joseph's brethren saw that their father was dead, they said, Joseph would peradventure hate us, and will certainly requite us all the evil which we did unto him.
I
And
just want to stop there for a second because I feel like that's probably something that comes up a lot, right? When people do bad things to you, and you're now in a position to do something back to them, their kind of thinking is, okay, I'm in for it, right? I'm in for it. But it's good to see if we continue reading what Joseph's response is. If we read from 16.
And they sent a messenger unto Joseph, saying, Thy father did command before he died, saying, So shall ye say unto Joseph, Forgive, I pray thee now, the trespass of thy brethren and their sin, for they did unto thee evil. And now we pray thee, forgive the trespass of the servants of the God of thy father. And Joseph wept when they spake unto him. And his brethren also went and fell down before his face, and they said, Behold, we be thy servants. And Joseph said unto them, Fear not, for I in the place of God. But as for you, you fought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring to pass as it is this day, to save much people alive. Now therefore, fear ye not, I will nourish you and your little ones. And he comforted them and spake kindly unto them. And Joseph dwelt in Egypt. Carry on.
Yeah, I mean that's good. That's good. I mean, it just goes on to say that he lived like 110 years, and it's just awesome to see like the kind of spirit that he had, despite all of those challenges.
Yeah.
You know, he was still very much unchanged almost by it. He was changed, but he was unchanged. You know, he still loved his brethren despite everything that they've done to him. And I
I
think
think
for
he
me
grew
that's a real
wiser.
example.
Yeah.
I think he grew wiser.
Yeah. 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 He had time, innit? He had time to really think about everything that had, because you kind of have to look at it from the beginning. I feel that, you know, sometimes things happen, and obviously he recovered from that. He was blessed truly by the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So, and he went through things for that to happen. So it goes back to all the things, the elements of things that we've spoken about. Like, you know, there's a lot of things at play here. Faith, being obedient. You see what I'm saying? Because sometimes when we talk about faith, a lot of people kind of always come with a question, I have faith. But it's not about having faith. It's what you have faith in. It's easy to have faith. I can believe, like my mobile phone, I can believe my mobile phone's got magical powers. But that doesn't mean it's so. You see what I'm saying? Right? But when we talk about faith, that true faith of serving who the true and living God is, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and God of Jacob, knowing what your purpose is. You see what I'm saying? So I just feel Joseph had a great understanding of what an Israelite is, to be an Israelite. He knew he had to forgive his brethren. You see what I'm saying? And the God of Israel saw him through that. You see what I'm saying? Because we don't know. We weren't there. We don't know how he was praying, obviously praying to the God of Israel, having conversation with the God of Israel, reflecting on all the things that had happened to him. He must have went through a period of time when he was thinking about it and reflecting on it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, definitely. These are, you know, tough times, but this is what make who we are as Israelites, and there's a lot to learn from this.
There is, and I really want people to kind of take some of these examples away and really see how they can implement them in their lives. For me, it's the mindset, it's the love for his family, and having a real deep desire to just do the right thing. And I think that's something. These are great qualities. Maintaining and standing firm in who you are. Even when people kind of come against you. So the other scriptures that I want to kind of go to is Daniel 6, Daniel chapter 6, and we're going to read about an interesting character, but a very powerful and wise man, the wisest man, Daniel. He was also named Belteshazzar, in Babylon. That was the name that was given to him. But we're going to go to the book of Daniel, chapter 6, verse 1. We can get that up. That would be good. Does anyone want to?
Yeah, I'll read. No problem.
Read? Was that you, Elder Kwame?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, sweet. Go for
And
it.
it pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 princesses, which should be over the whole kingdom, and over these three presidents, of whom Daniel was first, that the prince might give account unto them, and the king should have no damage. Then this Daniel was preferred above the president and princes, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole realm. Then the president and the prince sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find none occasion nor fault, for as much as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him. Then said these men, we shall not find any occasion against Daniel, except we find it.
Okay.
One second.
Where are we? We're in verse
Except, yeah, verse
5.
Right.
Then said these men, we shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his God. Yeah. Like, don't you just? I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna save that. Continue.
All right. So 6.
Verse 6. Yeah.
Then these presidents and prince assembled together to the king and said first unto him, King Darius, live forever. All the presidents of the kingdom and the governors and the prince and the counselors and the captains have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree that whosoever shall ask a petition of any god or man for 30 days, save or man of 30 days, save of thee, O king, he shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing, that it be not changed according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which altereth not. Wherefore King Darius signed the writing and the decree. Now, when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went into his house, and his windows were open in his chambers towards Jerusalem. He kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his God, and as he did aforetime.
Wait, hold up there a minute. I've got to just is Daniel, if you look at Daniel, is Daniel being stubborn? like can you just imagine that the king saying that, well, you just read it, yeah, king has signed a decree that nobody must pray, and Daniel goes, okay, I'm gonna go pray in my windows. He didn't even bother close the windows, you know. He didn't put the blinds down because he's like, well, you know, just in case someone sees me, man. Left the window open. So for everyone to see him, and it's just like, well, carry on praying.
Right. I mean, would you class that as being resilient?
100%.
Like, he was steadfast in what you believe, right? But yeah, please discuss.
100%, man. I mean, that's, you know, like,
I would say resilience afterwards.
Yeah, but faith, innit?
I would say after, like, when certain things start happening to him, and he's still like determined. I'm still going to serve my God. But beforehand, that was more of a. It was more of a you know what? My God comes first.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what you got to say. I'm serving my God, and I'm not deviating. I'm not going left or to the right. I'm not gonna go and serve. I'm not gonna serve yours. I don't care where I am. You're my priority, and I'm not going to hide neither. I'm not gonna go and hide in the toilet and go and pray, or hide in the back room and go and pray. I'm gonna pray where I normally pray, and if you don't like it, then you could just do whatever.
Can I say something as well? You're absolutely, Elder Jason, absolutely, Elder Kwame. What makes me laugh is this guy he's no ordinary guy. So he's sitting up there with the princes, with the president. So he's a man of authority. They've given Daniel, the king's given Daniel authority. Daniel's supposed to be an example of these authorities. So, for example, that royal statute that's been set, somebody like Daniel will be somebody who should really be following that, because he is a leader in that establishment, right? The audacity of Daniel to just open the windows, and it said, do what he did aforetime. In other words, he continued to do, he went back to what he did. He showed his resilience. I don't care about that statute. I'm going to continue, as you said, Elder Jason, to serve my God in spirit and in truth, and boldly do it. shows the quality of that man. That man was different. Like, I love that story. Different. Would I
And
be able to
he's
show
not
that
being
same?
arrogant.
I-
It's
Confidence is the word. I wouldn't say arrogance. It's
confident.
more
Yeah, that's what I said. He's not being arrogant or anything. It's just confidence and just knowing that, you know what, there's nothing that's gonna come. There's nothing that's gonna come over my God.
yeah,
You know, and this is something else that, as I said, like, we are on this panel to teach the viewers and for people that's even hopefully if you've seen this and you're not in the Israelite nation, then this will give you some insight into how we feel, you know,
that,
because we read stories of our forefathers like David and Abraham and Moses, and we do apply it, and we as Israelites, we don't turn to the left or to the right, or look at changed words, or listen to when people say, oh yeah, the book's been changed 1,000 times, and they've taken like the J and they put the Y there, and you know, and Jesus is God and all that stuff. We don't listen to none of that. Yeah, our skin is thick. We know what we are supposed to do. Yeah, and we
100%.
and we take what's inside the scriptures because it's for us to understand and for us to implement in our lives. And that's what we do. You know, that's what we do. So these are prime examples of us being strong and resilient, not arrogant, but you know, but confident.
Yeah.
You know,
And also, I've got to give it up to our God as well, a true father indeed, because with the resilience that everyone's just shown, for example, we spoke about Joseph, now we're speaking about Daniel. There's always the God of Israel's got your back, like through any kind of diversity, with any kind of adversity, with any kind of situation, scenario, whatever, through your ups and downs. Guess what? Our Father, our Heavenly Father, has got our back. So as long as we show resilience and we keep the faith and we trust in Him, He won't let you down.
Yeah.
I've got to say, share, and subscribe to the Israelite Nation, to the YouTube channel. Forgot to mention that. Sorry.
That's all good. It's all good. Yeah, Daniel's story is one of resilience and steadfastness in the God of Israel. It shines through. It said that an excellent spirit was found in Daniel. He was made president, as you read just now, and the first of the three that ruled over 120 princes in Babylon.
Sorry, Samuel. Sorry, that part, the excellent spirit, right? I think we need to go a little bit into that, because when I read that, he's different. He has a different spirit to what they have. He has the spirit of adoption. He has the spirit of truth. He's an Israelite, right? He has a completely different spirit, right?
Right.
Well, i.e., let's just say he had the spirit of truth. Let's say per se. When it says he has an excellent spirit, how do you view that or interpret that, or understand? I should say, not interpret. Understand that scripture, that sentence.
That sentence for me is just like you said, he was completely off the chain. Like the way he thinks, the way he moves is completely different. You could take it back to, you know, Nebuchadnezzar, right? When you know, the writing appeared on the wall, and sorry, it was Belshazzar when the writing appeared on the wall, and he's like, oh, like what does this mean? You know, tekel many, and he was able to interpret those things. He was able to tell them exactly what it meant, and it wasn't great things for him or his dad, Nebuchadnezzar. So you know, he had that spirit, you know, but ultimately he had the spirit of truth, the spirit of adoption, like you said. He had the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob on his side, right? And he had that confidence. Like for me, that excellent spirit that's found in him it's almost like, I feel like that's probably the reason why he was able to do the things that he did. You know, he saw the world in a different way and he moved differently. And I think that's how we are and are supposed to be as children of Israel, as Israelites. You know, this is what, you know, we are hoping, you know, that people who are seeing here, people who are watching us, tuning in, listening in, however you're getting us on the interweb there, that you see that this is what we are about. This is what we want to showcase and embody as God's children. So yeah, an excellent spirit for me is that.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think I wanted to add a little bit onto that. But
Yeah, please.
like you said, he had to be that type of person to receive that spirit, because you said an excellent spirit. Not how do you define that? How do you explain that? Right? Like it's almost like you look at Abraham, for example, right? Abraham was different, right? So was Job. He was completely different, right? So, but when you look at other Israelites, they're all Israelites as well. But what defines him, right, than other Israelites?
I think we're going to get into that, though. I think we're going to see, like when we read through the story, and I'm conscious of the time, that we'll see those traits. And I think it's those traits that I really want to kind of bring up and out of this conversation. You know, the mindset, you know, the support system, the ability to regulate his emotions. You didn't see him jumping up and down and screaming and like doing what like he kept his cool in the face of adversity, right? Like that's a real man right there. Like he went straight into his room, opened the door wide, and continued his prayers as he had done before in the
Previously.
face of adversity, at the pain of death. That was a big sacrifice, right? For 30 days. I mean, look, what is the wisest man with an excellent spirit who gave counsel to kings and ruled over kingdoms and princes do in that moment? He prays 3 times a day.
Exactly. I mean, one could argue that wasn't a wise thing to do. I mean, the consequences of what he just did was death. Was to be put in the lion's den.
Right.
But this is the wisest man. He, you know, with an excellent spirit. And by the way, sorry to cut you, but that excellent spirit again, it's his, as you said, it's his traits, his demeanor. He's not going around boasting. He's not going around letting everybody know, oh, I'm an Israelite. I'm Daniel, the wisest man in the world. He just embodies what Israel should be. He just, you read about him. I see
It's like
all
David.
of us, we all trying to acquire this excellent spirit. And we all can acquire this excellent spirit because we are chosen. We are princes and princesses of the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob. So, yeah, great example, Daniel. This is a great example.
Daniel, fantastic. Like Daniel was my example when I looked at it and I thought resilience. I see this guy. I see it because he's attained almost that mastery of self and that ability to be like, okay, I'm going to regulate myself. I'm going to do the things that I need to do. Pray to my God 3 times a day. It was counterintuitive, especially at that time, like to open his windows and to pray so that all his enemies could see. So all of it his enemies could see. And it's just that level of like, wow, if we're in situations and circumstances today, like, is that the kind of approach we take? Do we take that counterintuitive approach, or do we? Because you're right, death was the answer. Death was going to be the end result if he didn't follow the king's decree, which was anyone caught making petitions or supplications of any god except the king would be put to death. So in the face of all of that, this is what he does. And it's just amazing. So I want to go back to the scripture, and I think we're at chapter 6, verse 10. And verse 11. So we're catching up to where his enemies are now there. So verse 11, it reads, Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. Then they came near and spake before the king concerning the king's decree. Hast thou not signed a decree? And, you know, you can look at this like in your everyday, right? You got those people who, you know, out there in life, you know, maybe they're at your job, maybe they're in your family even, and they just got no good news. They're just always out for your downfall. They're just sowing seeds of discord and destruction, right? And these are the things that we have to be mentally prepared for. We have to be resilient. But here they are, whispering in the king's ear, or maybe shouting at the king, saying, hast thou not signed a decree that every man that shall ask a petition of any god or man within 30 days, save of thee, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? So they're asking this question, right? And they know what the answer is going to be because they know what they've done. They set him up because no fault was found in him. They couldn't find any fault in him, save the facts that he would praise and worship his God. So that's what they've gone after. They've gone after his strength. But that's where they messed up. But we'll continue reading. The king answered and said, the thing is true, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which altereth not. 13. Then answered they and said, before the king, that Daniel, the disrespect, that Daniel, which is of the children of the captivity of Judah, regardeth not thee, O king.
That Daniel,
That
definitely
Daniel.
disrespect.
The president of the first president of the three presidents, over 120 princes. This is how they refer.
Exactly.
Then the king, when he heard these words, was sore displeased with himself. Now this takes me to something else. Like, having resilience is also the ability to build meaningful networks with people and have good support networks with others. And you can see that Daniel clearly had this at the fact that King Darius was sorely displeased. It meant that he had a good working relationship with him.
Sorry, Samuel.
Yeah.
Just like the example with Joseph and what's his name again? Pontius? No, not Pontius.
Potiphar.
I always forget his name. Same thing. It upset him that he had to put him in prison.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it displeased him as well. So same thing, it shows their qualities. These are righteous men without fault.
Right. And so the king okay, so here we are. Verse 16. Then the king commanded, and they brought Daniel and cast him in the den. Actually, wait, I missed a verse. Let me go back to 14. Then the king, when he heard these words, was sore displeased with himself and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. So look at that, like he's like trying to find a way to save this guy, right? Like we said. And he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him. Like that just speaks for itself. Then these men assembled unto the king and said unto the king, now know, O king, that the law of the Medes and the Persians is that no decree nor statute which the king established may be changed. So here are the enemies of progress. Here are the enemies. And fill in the blanks, whoever they are. Because they will come, just like the accuser of the brethren, which we know. Always there accusing you of something or another.
You know what? They were also... No, I was going to say they were also resilient in their quest to get Daniel, but that's actually a bad example.
Yeah.
It was very creative as well. That's very creative, man.
Then the king commanded and brought Daniel and cast him in the den of the lions. Now the king spake and said unto Daniel, thy God whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee. Imagine that. The king, Darius, must have been a Persian or whatever it is, or he's even saying that your God's going to deliver you. He had that much faith in our God. And 17 says, and a stone was brought and laid upon the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet and with the signet of his lords, that the purpose might not be changed concerning Daniel. Then the king went to his palace and passed the night fasting. Neither were instruments of music brought before him, and his sleep went from him. 19. Then the king arose very early in the morning. Notice that, very early. Like this guy, like he really checked for Daniel. And went in haste unto the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried with a lamentable voice unto Daniel. And the king spake and said to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God, whom thou servest, continually able to deliver thee from the lions? And then this is the line.
So even the king is giving homage to the true and living God. As
I was going to say that. It's funny because he's got his own God. Yeah. I remember pre-storming reading this last week. He's got his own God, but then he's acknowledging Daniel's God as the true
living,
and
yeah.
living God. So if he's true and living, what is yours?
But you know what
What,
Elder
true
J
and
said?
dead?
You know what Elder J, stuff like that, it baffles me. If your God can outprove my God, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna be a follower of your God. I'm gonna follow
Exactly.
your God. So I don't understand why
But
this
then, but then it also shows, which people are always blindsided, that there's other gods inside these scriptures.
it does, yeah.
It shows that all these other nations has their own gods.
Yeah, but it also tells you also, just to add to what you're saying, that it's a spiritual thing as well. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not as simple as like you saying, I'm going to serve this God, right? You can't serve the God of Israel unless you're chosen, man, to do so, unless he wants you to. So if he hasn't chosen you, then how you can't serve him. That's as simple as it. That's how I see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can add, we are blessed to serve this true and living God. I mean, anybody can serve the true and living God if they're willing to go through the gates of Israel. So we are blessed to have this understanding and teachings, which was given to us inevitably from Elder Shadrach. And anyone who wants to follow and believes in our true and living God has a right to come and join this fold. But I guess what you're saying, Elder Kwame, is you got to be that special person to be chosen. Because
Yeah. You can't just be anyone off the street and just come in like that. It doesn't work like that. There got to be something. You got to be offering something. There has to be something about you, right? For you to even consider, because then you have to look at this situation and say, look, the king was giving homage to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Yeah.
And he believed him to be the true and living God. But then he had his own God. It don't make no sense.
You know what you need to be, Elder Kwame? You need to be resilient to serve this God. So you're absolutely right, because
it makes no sense. He went back. He probably went back to serving his God. Do you know what I mean?
True.
Makes no sense.
That's true. Yeah.
So 21 reads, and then said Daniel unto the king, O king, live forever. My God has sent his angel and has shut the lion's mouth, that they have not hurt me, for as much as before him innocency was found in me, and also before thee, O king, have I done no hurt. Then was the king exceedingly glad for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no manner of hurt was found upon him, because he believed in his God. And the king commanded that they brought those men which had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions, them, their children, and their wives, and the lions had mastery over them, and break all their bones in pieces, of ever they came at the bottom of the den. So, like, yeah, they dug a pit for themselves, right? And they didn't even like realize it. And I think sometimes like we can become so annoyed and so upset and so angry that somebody has done something and whatnot. But what does it say in the scriptures? It says to bless those that use you, pray for those who despitefully use you, bless those who curse you, and pray for those who despitefully use you, right?
Listen, Sam, sorry, I got to cut you before I forget this train of thought. I've just seen this, and I just got to quickly say this.
Tell me.
That verse 24, if you think about it, these same people that accused Daniel of betraying the king, you got to realize they serve the same God as the king. Yeah, they didn't serve Daniel's God, they serve the same God as the king. So therefore, if they serve the same God as the king, right, and Daniel disobeyed the law of the king, even if the king had threw them into the pits, their God should have saved them, right?
Right.
Am I wrong? Right. Their God should have saved them. He should have saved them from death and their children. You know, because they served the same God. So it just goes to show that no God has any power over the God of Israel.
Yeah.
They don't have no power. Why didn't the lions just walk around the children and the wives and the accusers? You know, because they serve the same God. You know,
Yeah.
he didn't do that. He just ate them all up.
No, but Elder
You
Jason,
know?
that's an excellent point, because again, it proves the spirit
Mm.
works with us. Because you're right. The first thing I would have said is, hold up a minute. His God saved them, but their God didn't save them.
Exactly.
You see what I mean? So
And the king
yeah,
serves the same God as them.
He serves the same
absolutely,
God, exactly.
you're absolutely
Exactly.
right. It's a spiritual thing. It's we have the spirit. We've inherited a spirit,
Mhm.
which is a pathway to our God, which is the truth. So they don't have that, which is the problem. So, but why? Sometimes you could use logic. Why didn't they use logic and say, there's something with this Daniel's God. Maybe we should join. Maybe we should find out more. You know?
Yeah.
That's what haters are gonna do, innit? And they're gonna create a pit for themselves, innit? So they're digging a grave, they're digging it for themselves. And I think that's what I love about, this scripture, right? And verse 25 reads, Then King Darius wrote unto all the nations and their languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom men tremble in fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God and steadfast forever. And his kingdom, that which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall be even unto the end. He delivereth and rescueth, and he worketh signs and wonders in heaven and in earth, who have
Wow.
delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. So this
Wait,
Daniel,
Every knee shall bow, every
wait,
tongue shall
hold
confess.
up. Who is Daniel? Is Daniel a Christian? Is he from Hagar's line? Or is he what's the name? Is he
he's not an Ishmaelite,
is he a Jebusite or Philistine? Like who is this?
none of
Who
those
is
things.
Daniel? He's none of these things. So is Daniel in the same lineage as Jesus?
He's
Uh,
from he's
He's
a
from the
Jew. He's
stock
from the
of
tribe of
Israel.
Judah,
He's from the
so
Israel.
stock of Israel.
I don't get how this king Darius has sent this message out to the world saying that this guy's God is God
You know why? You know why, Elder Jason? Because
and he's an
our God,
Israelite,
our
not a
God
Christian.
is the King of Kings. So they all will bow. Every single king on the earth will bow. Our God is the King of Kings. Thank you, Darius. That's what I would say. I'd look at him and say, yeah, thank you. Well, in fact, I say you're done now, because that's what it is. You're done now.
Darius,
So
Amen, 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 amen. But you know what? That goes to show that, you know what? Nations did know about the God of Israel. You see what?
he was fed. He was fed from what we did in Egypt, from what he did in Egypt.
mm.
That story kept on going. That story
that
went
went
round,
that
round,
went
round. He was
everywhere.
fed. Yeah,
Mm.
That went everywhere.
yeah.
What I love is that Daniel stood firm in his beliefs. He trusted in God's protection. He maintained his composure and his calm. He embraced the power of prayer. He persevered through the adversity. Imagine all night being in a lion's den. Like, what must have been going through his mind? You know, how must he have been? Was he fearful at any moment in time, or was he just standing? Like, I kind of wonder what it was like, in that moment to be in a lion's den. Or maybe he was just calm and chilled and he just had that confidence. Whatever it is, there's definitely a quality about him that I think we can all take into our day-to-day lives, like
Absolutely,
post-its.
absolutely.
He had the support of the king, you know, and we have that. We have support of people. We have support of our friends, our family, our fellow brothers and sisters, and we should, definitely, lean on that and lean into that, as well as leaning into the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Even just to know his name is so powerful. It enables us to kind of go through trials and tribulations. So these are, I think, for me, the learnings when I look at this particular scripture, that I think is just wonderful for all of us to take from and to remember when we come to serving our God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob.
May I
Um,
add? May I add as well? Sorry, something. May I add as well? I'd like to add as well. What was I going to say? We can't be part-time Israelites as well, because Daniel, they saw no fault in him. Same with Joseph. Same with all these people. They saw no fault in him. So in order for us to really say we're Israelites and be Israelites, we have to live. That's why we got the law, statutes, and commandments. We got to live righteous. We got to live the right way. So when these people look at us, they see no fault in us. And that's how we can exercise our resilience. That's how we can easily and proudly stand and stay firm and do the things that I think Teacher Jaden spoke about integrity in one of his lessons. Integrity is a key thing. Who we are, we can say we're Israelites. We can scream we're Israelites, we're Israelites, we're Israelites. But if we don't live by the law, statutes, and commandments, serve our true and living God in spirit and in truth, and be without fault, if we can do those things, then they inevitably have to respect us. You see what I'm saying? And then that's also a form of resilience. Let's show resilience as a people and then move forward.
Because ultimately it's about bringing forth good fruit, right? And my grandma, she always used to say this, charity begins at home. You cannot give what you don't have, right? And it's so true. From that perspective, we have to build ourselves up mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. All of those things go hand in hand. They're like different pots that we have to top up from time to time. We have to look after our well-being, our physical well-being, our mental well-being, our spiritual well-being. How do we do that? Is it by engaging in every argument that comes across our way? Is it by going and doing things that are completely contrary to who we are? Like you said, no fault was found in Daniel. He remained faultless. He remained blameless. Now, that's not to say that we're going to be perfect 24/7. And as we know, we are, we're living in this world, but we're not of this world. So it really is incumbent on us to really look at how we can be resilient in our day to day, how we can support others, how we can support ourselves so that we can have that unity and that peace ultimately. But yeah, any other comments?
Sorry, I just wanted to add to what you were saying, man. It's really encouraging to read this story just to understand the power that we have. As long as we stay in character, as long as we serve our God, right? Like you said, we're gonna go through ups and downs. We're not always gonna be perfect, yeah. But as long as we stick to what we're supposed to do, then the God of Israel's got our back. You see what I'm saying? He's got our back all the time. Like with Daniel, he had his back, even though they couldn't find a fault in him, right? They tried to make up something and set a trap for him. But what happened? Ultimately, they fell in the trap. You see? So it's like, you know what I mean?
And so the beauty about it is, Elder Kwame, it's not like he had to say anything. It's not like he had to say, these people, like, he didn't even have to do anything. And I think that's the beauty about mastering yourself. Like, that's another thing that I draw from, like, Daniel. Like, you don't have to say anything. Like, people will literally come to your defense. And I've seen that happen, like, even just like a few weeks ago where somebody had spoken out of turn and literally somebody else just came and blasted them and they were just like, no way, how dare you speak to Samuel like that because of blah, blah, blah. And it was just amazing to see. I'm not putting myself on the same pedestal, but I don't know if you've ever been in that situation, right? Where, people come and they like literally defend you. You don't have to say anything. That's a nice feeling. It's a great spot to be in, I have to say. And I think by mastering yourself, you give others the grace to be and fill that space in life that you once thought of as uncertain. And I think you also grant them the permission to just be who they are. With a common purpose and with a goal, I think we'll experience that sense of community and connectedness, which is what I'm hopeful this lesson can kind of share. And what it is about for me, it really is about us as individuals building up our character, building up our resilience so that we come together as a powerful unit. We can come together, as a people, a force that's united. Where it says in the Bible, 1 will chase 1,000 and 2 will chase 10,000. The math is completely like not logical, but I love it because it's so powerful. And I think that's what, we need to strive towards. There's a lot of chat about unity. Like, But unity is not going to come by forcing other people to be unified. It's you being unified within yourself. And I think that's what Daniel exhibits for me. He shows that through his resilience. He shows that through his well-measuredness and the fact that he remains calm and that he, prays to his God and that he keeps a certain standard, and I think that's what we need to potentially look at and then in terms of implementing within ourselves. Because let's face it, life has always been uncertain, however you want to look at it. It's always going to throw up challenges. It's always going to throw up issues, but it's how we deal with that. It's how we take it and move forward. Conscious of the time when we need to close, but guys, throw up some fire signs, throw up some sevens, like, share, subscribe. But before I go, I just have to ask the panel if there's any closing comments.
Yeah, I've just got a quick one. This was very interesting. It was a very interesting topic, and I love it. And it's just a shame that we have to end it now. But although you guys are messaging in the live chat, please let's jump onto the comment section where we could keep this chat going. If you want, you can ask some questions in the other comments. If you want to know what type of how we move or what type of spirit we have, because we have the spirit of truth. In John it explains it, so we can maybe speak about that. But yeah, guys, thank you very much for listening. I hope you take it in, and I hope to see you in the comment section.
Nice.
Yeah. I just wanted to finish my last words just to say that, you know what, it's a really powerful lesson, and even I learned I can take something with me, but the message really is that you need to stay in character, stay true to who you are. You are an Israelite, and you have the most powerful God there is. There's no other God powerful than the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob. And with that, I say, I'll leave you with that.
Nice. Thank you. Deros?
Yeah, now, peace. I mean, I'm gonna leave what my two elders have said. I think they've just summarized it perfectly. There's resilience. Run those words back.
Perfect. Well, listen, thank you guys for joining in. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. I'll leave you with Ephesians chapter 4 if you want to read it, the whole chapter. It really is the crowning jewel in terms of where we were headed with this, but everything that's been said here is perfect. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a fantastic weekend. Join us next week. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.